gentle people. Welcome back to another episode of F.L.O.W Presents, where we are going to be talking about women's empowerment this episode. So we have a panel of wonderful women joining us. But of course, before we get into that, we are going to do our Jesus Come Quickly, because he needs to come fast. Okay, so as usual, I volunteer myself to go first with my Jesus Come Quickly. So, this blessed Sabbath morning, my boyfriend saw fit to send me a long, hour-long something about Derek Jackson. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of this man, but he has made his living telling women common sense things, basically, and taking their side and all sorts of whatnot. You know your man don't love you if he don't do that kind of stuff. And apparently he was caught cheating on his wife. So that's really ironic, because this man has made a living being like, your man, if your man loved you, he wouldn't do this to you. Well, if he loved his wife, he would have cheated on her. So that's why I need the Lord to come quickly, because I am tired of all these men making all this living, putting all these things that they not themselves are doing, and I'm tired of it. I'm over it.
You know
what's come fast.
It's funny because people voice the same issue with Steve Harvey. Like, they'll say, he writes books like Act Like a Man, Think Like a Woman, or Think Like a Man, Act Like a Woman, right? Is that the name of the book?
Whatever that book
is. Act Like a Woman, Think Like a Man. There we
go. This man is right, and this man has been married for the bajillionth time and is giving all of this advice. And I just find it so ironic. And I actually just want to know, like, what happens when, to his fans, like, Derek Jackson, like, what's going to happen to the people who were sucking up the air that he was breathing because of what he was saying? Like, are they now going to make an excuse for the reason why he did what he did, or like?
Go ahead.
So this whole Derek Jackson thing. Now, I really have never ever been a fan of Derek Jackson, because something about him I just didn't resonate with me. But this morning I was because I saw it on YouTube this morning, and then it had a YouTuber who had a live going with like 800 people in this. I think that's
what my friend sent me.
And she was essentially putting it on the wife, like the wife should be okay because Derek Jackson is pulling in like 100,000 a month, so she needs to really be okay. And I'm sitting here like, and people in the chat room agreeing with her that he's on celebrity status, so she ain't going nowhere, and she need to be okay, and she don't look like the side chick. And I was in hell. What world is this? Like, I had such huge issue. I had to click out because I couldn't start my day like that.
I didn't actually watch the video, and I'm happy I didn't actually. I scrolled through like the comments to figure out what was going on, because I was like, this thing is an hour and a half. I don't got that kind of time. But it was a live something that this lady was putting out, like laying out all the whatnot. I didn't realize she was actually blaming the wife.
Yeah.
But so for my part, because I used to be a really big fan of his, he's just so good looking. I was suckered in. I'm sorry.
That's how to get you. That's how to get you. All that. That's how to get you.
And then at some point, I don't know what. And at some point, I was just kind of like, something about you don't agree with my spirit. So I just floated away from him. But I was definitely a big fan of his for a while, and I don't think that anything he was saying, like that he was putting out, was necessarily wrong. Like, I don't think that everyone should negate everything he was saying beforehand. There's a lot of people that you can talk a good game, but you yourself can't do it.
Right.
So I'm not going to say that everything that he said, beforehand is now negated. Yeah, throw it in the trash. But, I feel like people should, take the words, don't necessarily attach it so much to the person itself sometimes. Like, people are people and they're going to do foolishness, but we're not going to blame the white for this.
Yeah.
Right. But I think a lot of
I think what happened, I was going to say, what I think what happens with.
Oh, Philly, go ahead.
Oh, hello.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I think what happens sometimes is that, especially with the increase of social media, a lot of these people that we look to know how to lure us into whatever they're creating for them to make money. Because remember, you brought up the topic of his, he makes so much money, his wife shouldn't be upset. And a lot of them really just giving what we want to hear for them to make money. And they're writing books and, all these things like that. So it's funny to see that, how do they live their lifestyle and the information they're giving us. So I agree, we shouldn't attach it to the person.
But I think what's interesting about him is his posture was, for anyone who isn't doing this, then you dumb. Like, I totally agree. You don't attach it to the person because everybody has a struggle. But the way he would come off on folk, it was like, oh, really? Like, you stupid for doing that. Driving his car. And that's why I couldn't take him, because while you're saying while what you are saying makes sense to me, the way you saying it, I'm not with that.
It's not.
Somebody said the reason why he did all these videos in the car was because if his side chick pulled up, he could just walk. Because if you ever watch his stuff, I've never seen him do a video outside of his car.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
maybe he did in the car too, because his wife knew he was not living that life. Like, he was not living what he was speaking, so he couldn't.
As soon as he started with that, my wife would have busted in like, but that's not how you treat me, though.
let me tell y'all, men are sketchy like that. And I know that this is not the topic, so I'm gonna move real quickly through this story. But I will tell you, there was a guy that I was like getting to know, who literally had his girl waiting in the car and parked. From those of y'all from New York know that, like, there's parallel parking and all that stuff. This dude parked a half a block down, got out of the car and walked a half a block up to see me, but his girl was in the car.
That's crazy. And he probably told you there's no parking, because that's believable in New York.
That's exactly there was no parking. So I was like, well, if you were gonna double park, why didn't you double park in front of my house? Oh, it just didn't make sense. Anyway, so
that's crazy.
Wait, before we go into our next thing, well, if someone else can say it, because someone else had brought up the
I was gonna say, mine is Jesus needs to come quickly, because if I hear another white woman play a victim, I am going to throw something off of a roof.
If I see a white woman cry again, use her tears.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna flip.
Okay, so
is there a specific instance?
So Sharon Osbourne. I don't know how many of you guys heard about this situation. She was asked a simple question on The Talk, CBS The Talk, by Cheryl Underwood, who is a Black woman. And the question was, because she had defended Pierce Morgan, who was a commentator in Britain about his criticism of Meghan Markle. She asked the question, and she was like, you've been defending Pierce Morgan. What would you say to people who feel like you're racist, or who have negative feelings about you defending somebody who they deem as racist? And she went off on the Black woman, right? Yeah. Then this woman tries to, like, bring the conversation in, and she's like, you're my friend, and I just wanted to make sure, if anything I did offended you. And she's getting emotional. This white lady had the nerve to be like, and I'm sorry if this is politically incorrect, but had the nerve to be like, don't you dare try and cry. This is a white woman crying, telling a Black woman not to cry, because I'm the person that should be crying. If anybody's crying, it should be me. And if I hear another white woman try to paint herself as the victim, then she goes on to say, I'm 68 years old. I'm a 68-year-old white woman. How can I be racist? Anyway, what needs to come quick? Because I'm a blow a gasket.
I would have probably leaned over the table, no cap. I would have. Yeah, you deserve a box upside the head for that. What? Nah.
Well, they said she's getting death threats and things like that now too.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, I'm not. Yeah, they said people are calling her phone and they found her address, threatening her animal to kill her dogs. Like,
oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
They're doing
pretty extreme.
I mean, I'm not that angry, but
they woke up and chose violence.
It ain't that serious. I'm just tired of hearing white women play the victim.
I hadn't even known the whole extent of it. I think I saw it in passing, and it was like, oh, scroll. I am wholly uninvested in 99.9% of white goings on.
Right.
No, but if it has to do with a black person,
I don't got it in me no more. I ain't gonna lie to you.
No.
Does anybody else have one before
I have one. Parenting. These need to come today. Like now. So last night, and I put this on my IG story because I just was completely. It's one of those things where you literally go from 0 to 100 in like 0.2 seconds. Mm-hmm. So I was, last night downstairs, and I heard my daughter upstairs on her phone with what sounded like a group video chat with some of her classmates or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So I sent my eldest daughter up and I told her to tell her sister that, it's time to close down, devices now, because it was late. Mm-hmm. And so my eldest daughter went in and told my other daughter, okay, mommy says it's time, I hear from her phone, one of her little friends tell my eldest daughter, shut up, get out of her room. I was like, listen. When I tell you, Jesus needs to go frontal, because I think I made it upstairs to her room in three steps. 3 steps. And I heard my daughter tell her friends, okay, I gotta go because my mother's coming and she about to be on somebody's doorstep tonight. I couldn't believe my daughter, the eldest one, she's real, calm and all that stuff or whatever. And she just walked away, right? And I was like, I said, no, we don't do that because that's disrespectful. That is extremely disrespectful. And we're going to handle that. So she had already hung up the phone, right?
Call him back.
So we're going to handle this tonight because I won't sleep. And so we handled it. He apologized to my daughter. My other daughter apologized to her sister for not doing anything in the moment. Mm-hmm. Because we talk about women's empowerment, how I teach them to be sisters to each other. Like you have each other's back. So if somebody coming for you, then all of y'all, they're coming for all of you. Okay? All three of you, I expect all three of you to respond. Yes. And so I was just like, this is what, because I have 3 teenage girls. This is what I am going to be encountering. So Jesus needs to come now. Because right here where people say whatever and talk whatever and all of that good stuff. Nah, I'm good with that. I need him to come.
My life.
Now.
I wouldn't even look. The phone would have banged in the middle of the sentence.
Right.
Today. No. I have to live in this house, not you.
Yes. Yes. Oh gosh. So that was my moment.
What else having juice come quickly?
I teach 7th grade middle school.
God bless you.
Every week is more like a Jesus come quickly. I thought they were gonna be more like rowdy and but they're actually more like I'm teaching and they're staring at me in the screen. And I had one kid, I called on him. I was like, so-and-so read. Looked at me and tried to fake like this. I said,
reconnecting.
No.
Like he was like,
no.
No. So I think so. They give me a run for my money. I'm like,
I give these kids props, man. They're very smart sometimes. He not so much. But I've heard stories of people changing their profile picture to be reconnecting. And I'm like, if y'all put half that much of stress into just paying attention. I know it's boring. I just this is not the way you want to be learning, but
right.
Yeah.
There's better
like,
uses of
gotta
your
give me some,
talents.
because like I don't want to be teaching y'all like this. I prefer to have y'all in the classroom.
But
And
another teacher
like
is
he was frozen.
Yeah.
like, at least like I don't know, like leave the room or something. Like I don't know, like I don't know. I would just leave the room, like if I didn't want to read. You know, he just stood there. And then another thing is they're plagiarizing, but
oh wow.
sorry, like you know, like I feel like we all have done our share of that, right? You know, be honest.
I'm not gonna admit that on air.
right.
All right, well,
They're missing the quote.
Everybody has done this in some sort of form, not me though. But my kids like will blatantly plagiarize, like copy and paste and not try to like edit it or anything.
Right. Even change
like I
words.
saw where you got this from. First of all, this is a very interesting fact, but we never talked about this person.
Oh.
So we got that
he
probably
ain't even in the lesson plan. So how you find out about it?
Like how y'all using words y'all can't? Y'all don't even know the definition to it.
They like, you don't know my life. You don't know.
Lackadaisical.
Yo.
Since you want to use it.
So I'm kind of like, Jesus, because this is very ghetto. Adulting is very ghetto. From the jump, you know. Yeah, so that's mine for the week.
So my second, I guess I don't know if Miss Felicia has come quickly.
I guess the come quickly is even just with everything on social media. I think we don't know what to cancel and what not to cancel. Like we cancel everything that really is not of relevance, and then so it's just like this week, for example, they said, oh, Kanye West is like the richest black man now in So people were like, well, oh, y'all just canceled him months ago. Are we welcoming him back? Like, is he not crazy no more? Like, no, and people were having this debate. Like, Kanye is probably sitting somewhere not worried about any of us right now.
Truly.
So it was funny, like how people go back and forth about, well, months ago we said he was crazy. Now we see him divorcing Kim K.
No,
and
divorced him.
Telling him
Right.
He should do this, he should do that, he should get the rights of this, and they put, he's the richest black man.
Now we claiming him. We're claiming him now. We're claiming him.
Yeah, so now everybody wants to claim him when they just canceled him like a few months ago.
It's permanent.
Yeah. So I'm like, is the cancellation temporary? Is it circumstantial?
It's not bright red anymore. It's a faded red. We're seeing how we feel about it.
Yeah, it's like a gray area there. It's just like even what's the Lil Mama? So she's been trending lately because I don't know where she's been. I've never really a crazy fan of hers, but she's speaking about the heterosexual and the homosexual rights and things like that, which I feel everyone has the right to their opinion. But again, it's like people was coming at her like, this girl's been MIA. Like there's nothing to cancel. Like I don't even know what she's saying. Like let her have her opinion. If you don't agree, you don't agree. Right. So it's just funny because I'm just like every week is something different. Like what are we upset about today? And then we go on to something else small.
Yeah. Speaking of
we got it.
Yeah, people were ready to cancel Kirk Franklin. Like, I mean, that happened. He's a human being. I understand as a Christian, we're supposed to uphold. Well, I'm Christian as well. So people's comments were, oh, well, as a Christian, and they were quoting like everything, and I'm just like, it could have been a mistake. Could have been an argument in his own household that leaked. Mm-hmm. His son is not 2 or 15. His son is 30-something.
Man.
So
let him cuss him out.
Yeah, there was a lot of mixed opinions on that as well.
I think that really upset me this week because I saw all the Christians talking about, oh my gosh, I can't believe he sings about God, and then he has the nerve to let those words come out of his mouth.
Right.
And I'm like, so y'all may be mad at me one day if you ever get me in the wrong day. You know what I'm saying?
Catch me in the wrong mood.
Yeah, people will respond, and we can't judge based on their responses. And so I was one of those people on Twitter talking about we're not canceling Kirk Franklin. That's not happening. As a matter of fact, I'm playing all my playlists this week, and I'm understanding the parenting. Yeah, I'm understanding the parenting thing. But his son is 32 years old. That's an adult. Come at me like an adult, you're gonna be treated like an adult. What?
Yeah.
Landy said, catch these hands.
The thing that had me was a lot of church folk were like, oh, we shouldn't be cussing, but y'all be cussing in board meeting and
Yes.
so what's the truth?
Okay.
We just can't, you know what it is? They haven't gotten caught yet. You know, we can't see it. So if you can't see it, it didn't count that they did it.
Right. There's no report. Yeah.
We got to keep it moving. We got to keep it moving.
Yeah, we're gonna jump into our main segment of woman empowerment now.
So I actually wanted to start off this segment bringing two women to mind, to attention. One just died not too long ago, Cicely Tyson, and the other one is Viola Davis. They both did some pretty powerful interviews about their upbringings. Viola Davis talked about how she grew up in subpar conditions. I mean, like sleeping on the floor, walking over rats in the middle of the night, eating in from garbage cans and things like that. And the only thing bringing her out of that was the idea that she wanted to become an actress, and that was going to be her way out of poverty. And eventually she got there, but she did as much as she could not to own her past. Basically, like, I don't want people to know that that's what I came from. Cicely Tyson, another actress who is critically acclaimed for a number of things, a legend in her own right, talks about how, she didn't grow up, she grew up poor, and there weren't a lot of parts out there for Black women, especially women of her complexion, because she's of a darker hue, and how she went in for a part and was raped after an audition, but she never told anybody about it, and she continued working with the person who raped her, and she said that she did it because in those days it was kind of like, as a Black woman, you're lucky to be in this industry anyway, and I need to put food on the table. And she tells that story now, but that wasn't something that she, was telling before, obviously. So I wanted to open up with those stories because I wanted it to kind of orient us. Like, we're talking about women's empowerment and women's history. And my question is, have you ever felt ashamed to tell your story? And if that has ever been you, or if you know anybody even that has been in a situation like that, where it may not have been as extreme as either one of those, but just there was something in there that you didn't necessarily want to claim as yours. How did you get to the place where you felt empowered enough to like own who you are?
I guess I could even start. So I think back even when now my family is of West Indian background, my family's from Trinidad. So even just something that always comes up, being raised with my mom and my grandmother, my great grandmother, like, you don't tell people your business, like, kind of thing. So it's like you may deal with it internally or even deal with it at home, or luckily I have a close relationship with my mom. So that would be always the first person I would go to and tell certain things to, but it will still be like, don't let your colleagues know, don't let your friends know. Like it could be something so simple. So you begin to internally like self-deal, whatever that may mean for you. But then you realize when you do speak to someone, or we're sharing stories, you're like, wow, somebody else that, went through the same thing as me. And we would have never known if we didn't share that experience. So I think it wasn't until I got to my 30s, I started like combating my mom with that. Like, well, it's okay to talk about certain things. Like, and I work with students as well on the college level. And working even in that capacity as a case manager, I can't tell a student to open up, and like, you know, like even for yourself as an individual, you can't do that. So it's like, you know, as a case manager, a lot of students, their grades fall or things happen because of these situations that they're not talking about. Right. And I think that's when I became more involved in like that mental awareness of even, or emotional awareness, emotional intelligence is owning how you feel, owning what happened, and speaking about it, even if it's to one or two people that you trust, but just speaking about it. And then kind of sharing in platforms like these, I do like, or listening to other people speak. So I think the sharing portion is very important. And actually, that you brought up that story where she got raped. I think I was watching a panel actually recently, and they were saying in a lot of European media where a lot of Black women go for parts and things like that, a lot of that is still happening with some, and they're saying it was something that's not spoken. You know, it's like people feel that they don't want to ruin their career to speak up about those things, especially in you know, television and media and things like that. So it's very interesting because I think those stories will help other people kind of speak up about the things we're not hearing about.
And I think sometimes too, the lack of sharing is because you feel like you won't be heard, and you feel like you'll be disregarded. You know, I know for me personally, I gauge my level of sharing with the person that I intend to share with. You know, so if I feel, number one, that you can't handle what I'm about to say, then I'm not gonna say it. You know, if I feel like it's a vulnerable moment and you may be irresponsible with my vulnerability, then I'm not gonna share it. And so I think a lot of times, for me personally, the lack of sharing is may not come from a place of being ashamed. Although I can point at times where I can you know, say that there are things that I was ashamed about, but really in that moment being a free individual to share my story, choosing not to because I don't trust that I'm sharing it in a safe space, or that you're even ready to receive what I'm about to say, you know?
Yeah, because I mean it will definitely convince you not to share, period. If you share with the wrong person and you almost feel like you have to argue, like you have to defend your experience.
Yes.
Right, the validation
that,
of it.
I'm sharing this thing with you, whether it's a very serious, you know, personal, whatever it is, or if it's just a bad experience. Oh, you know, I got cut off in traffic and it really, you know, made me upset. And their response is, well, da 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 da, and suddenly it's your fault, and you're like, all right, well, now I'm not gonna say nothing because somehow you invalidated my feelings, my, you know, my story of what I'm telling you. So
and sometimes I think that I was gonna. I'm sorry, real quick.
No, go ahead.
Sometimes it's like sometimes you react based on how you see other people react to people when they share. You know, so for instance, I remember last week
5 o'clock
when everything was happening with when everything was happening with Meghan Markle, and people were saying they don't believe her. She's probably lying about everything. There are people who might be going through things like that, but they don't want to share it because they see how, you know, the firing squad comes out. And I know, like, when I was younger, I used to feel that way, like, you know, going to church. I did not always feel like it was a safe place. And, you know, I was at a younger age, I was dealing with a lot at home. And I remember going to church sometimes and just hearing how malicious people were to others, and thinking to myself, if I'm in trouble, I'm not telling any of y'all. And there were times when I was in trouble and I did not feel safe to share it. Then there were times when I was just embarrassed because, you know, my family grew up, I was little and poor, or, you know, this happened or that happened, but other people were had all this other stuff, and I was just embarrassed. Like, I didn't want people to know that this was my reaction. And so I do think it's important to own your story. I think it sometimes can take you a long time to get there because society doesn't always accept you for who you are?
I think that what you said about like going to church and seeing how people are malicious to each other and like seeing how just like in social media how people react, I think that's a big part of like changing things for younger generations, because like we came by this attitude by watching the generation before us. So like I'm not comfortable going to church and telling, you know, sister so and so about my problems, because when I was younger and I came to church, I definitely remember sister so and so talking about somebody else to so and so. So now I know, okay, you're not a safe person. Or even just in social media, I have a lot of respect for somewhat my generation, but a little, I guess, the generation after my generation, depending on which generation I want to claim at the time. Of just they don't let nothing stay in the dark. And stuff with like Meghan Markle and that kind of stuff, where people are like, oh, she's probably lying. Why would she lie? And I definitely see a lot of younger people being like, where do you come with the idea that she's lying? Like, and calling that out. And I definitely respect that. And I've definitely seen in the wake of Meghan Markle's interview, a lot of other people that are in the same position, but, you know, not in the royal family, of marrying into a white family, whatever it is, and being asked that question of, oh, what about the, you know, is the baby gonna come out dark and that kind of stuff. And I've witnessed that from, you know, other people that I know, and even stuff like, you know, oh, you know, don't want to come out too dark, don't go into the, don't be out in the sun, da 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 da. I definitely come for specifically for like the colorism aspect, for not being too dark, or, you know, it's good to be lighter, that kind of stuff. I definitely count myself blessed in how I came by my attitude towards skin color, because I'm a little bit backwards, and do not misunderstand me. There's nothing wrong with lighter complected Black people. But I did not know until I discovered social media at like 18 or 19 that everyone else thought being darker was bad. I was laid out in the sun all summer trying to darken up, and I was so depressed when I would lose my little bit of melanin. So, you know, social media definitely shapes a lot how, especially the next generation, you know, does things, what they ingest. I think that's very, very important. So church people can't keep secrets for nothing. They be putting stuff in a bulletin.
Well, I actually want to talk about that. So Simone says church people can low key be the worst with keeping the secret. And my question is, you know, talking about just some of the things that we know, like each of us in our own environments, whether we're, you know, church goers or not, and in our smaller communities, is it always appropriate to keep things a secret? You know, and the reason why I asked that question is because, like, if you know that something is happening with somebody, you know, where, I don't know, they're in some real danger or whatever, like, should it be that the environment is to keep the secret, or should it be that their environment is to help them?
So I think, because this is real tricky. I think that it's possible to help a situation and still be discreet with it.
Yes. You know?
Yes. I think that we don't get to take the prerogative that because this is such a heavy topic that I now share it.
Yeah, we don't share with everybody.
Right. Yeah. We don't have the right to do that. But if I find out something that is absolutely detrimental, like there is a clear outcome, and it's not a matter of me thinking, okay, well, it could go this way. So, you know, but it is a clear outcome that is detrimental, and discreetly handling that with all respect and with the purpose of helping, you know, and being helpful. I think that's appropriate, but you have to do that so prayerfully, and you have to do that with such wisdom. Because especially if the person is in a position where they don't want it out, or they don't want, you know what I mean? You have to treat that very carefully. But I do think that there are very few instances where you would do that. Like I saw in the chat room, you know, all of a sudden it's in a sermon, and now we have object lessons about what people live in life, and all of that is completely inappropriate, and I would never ever share after that. Like, you would never get anything out of me other than
go back to that church.
Right.
I'm gonna change my membership.
Right.
Yeah. And so it sounds like there's a level of wanting to be able, or there are different types of sharing of your story. So there's the sharing of your story where, it might be something that you're currently going through that you need somebody to confide in. And then it seems like something that maybe you went through that other people maybe need to hear, that you don't, that may not necessarily need to be, well, I won't say need to be, because I think that's based on where you are, what point you are in your life. But, there's some stories, because I'm reading in the chat that somebody said that, what if there's a lesson in the story in your story for other people? So it sounds like there are two different, we're talking about two different things here. And I think, I will say that I think it should be, everybody should have the right to determine which category they fall into.
Right. Yeah, because I think, no, I was gonna say, sometimes I think even just for us, it's like using our, as Landi said, our wisdom or discernment, because sometimes someone sharing may not be a cause for help. They actually might just want to share to get something off their chest. And that's why I think the importance as you grow, having at least one or two people where it's like you kind of that, because I know for some people when they don't vent, that's where the anger and all these other thoughts and things come in that really can be detrimental to the individual themselves. So I think, and for those that are open and not gossipy and opening to listening or have that kind of gift of just being empathetic, I think sometimes then we have to discern, like maybe they just want to get something off their chest, and it's not a cause for help right now. Because some people then are not receptive. Some people might be like, well, I didn't say I needed help. I just wanted to tell you. And then some people kind of distance themselves because they're like, no, I don't need help right now.
Yeah, and I think like overstepping. They feel like,
and I think that's where it's important that we ask them the question: how can I help you in this?
Right.
Because you've obviously shared this with me. How can I help you? What can I do for you? And if it's a matter of I literally just needed to get it off my chest, or but asking them, what can I do for you in this, and honoring whatever that is if you can,
specifically to the point of what if it's a lesson that someone else needs to learn? First of all, don't be making no lessons off of my life.
Listen.
Thirdly, the tagline of my childhood was, "There is nothing new under the sun," and they said that in relation to the Bible. Now, if I come to you and I tell you what the story is, you a pastor. You better find a story in the Bible that matches my story and base your sermon off of that.
Yes.
Don't go up there talking about, oh, this, that, and the third, and everybody know it's me, just a different name. My name is Bondell, and you just you just changed the first letter.
Yeah.
Oh, and Sister Bondell is having this. There are ways and means, and that's definitely a way to just lose all sorts of trust and comfortability. Like, period. Like, if I go to church and I tell the pastor this, that's supposed to be a confidential something, and the next week he preaching about sister so and so that sound too much like me, it's canceled.
And that's the thing. You can't be so concerned about helping somebody out or giving a lesson learned to someone else while I'm still in the middle of it, because you're sacrificing me for somebody else who might need this lesson. Nah, I need the current issue at hand is my issue, sir. I don't need you on the pulpit because you think there's somebody out there who needs to hear this. My current issue is what is at hand. So don't sacrifice me because you feel like someone else here, because you think that somebody else out here have a need to hear it. No, we can wait 10 years down the road when I've been delivered, when I have victory. Then you can bring that in, your little stories in your sermons. I'm sorry, I've seen it too often. Sorry.
So how, and Landi, you talk about waiting 10 years down the line for when we receive the victory, when we become victorious over whatever it is that we're dealing with. And so, just keeping in mind what we're discussing, how do you encourage, how do we encourage ourselves as women to be more open with, like, owning, like what we've been through and being and feeling empowered to share it, and I'm not talking about, because there's some things that are so heavy that we're not ready to deal with, like we're not ready for the world to know, and that's okay. That's for us in the prayer closet and a good therapist,
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's very important because a lot of people are reluctant to any type of a lot of people of color, I should say, since we're women of color, men and women tend to be reluctant to professional help. And again, I think maybe that's where the church comes in, because I think from, you know, the Black community, the church was always the go-to, but it was maybe not always the right go-to because of all the circumstances you just explained. Yeah, that's probably the response. Pray about it, or again, they share your information with the whole congregation, and now you just feel worse about your situation or you know your story. So yeah, I think finding one person, I think that's a start. Finding at least one person you can trust, or seeking professional help might be the route to go. Just to start. Yeah.
Yeah, I think our community is really bad when it comes to seeking therapy. Like I was the other shirt I was going to wear said I go to therapy and I pray. You know, because our community seems to think that therapy isn't necessary. Just pray about it, and like what you just said, and I think that's irresponsible. You know, but definitely taking advantage of therapy. People who can talk in business, or else they lose their license.
Right.
Or really pray about finding a girlfriend or two that may have experienced the same thing and have those eyes of empathy that will help you through it, because those real strong ride or die girlfriends can really pull you out of a lot, you know. And sometimes you have to just ask God to allow you to open yourself up to find who they are. And because they can be a blessing. If it's just one or two, they could be a real blessing to your life as well.
So I know that you really quickly, I know that you work with like the younger population, and I'm not sure how much time you were able to actually spend with them in the classroom, because I know that, you know, it's been quarantine probably a good portion of your, you know, career at this point. But when you look at the younger girls, you know, like what are some things that you've seen? I'm sorry, I'm getting feedback. That kind of distracted me a little. There we go. What are some things that you've experienced, or if you had any encounters with any of the girls, you know, that make you feel like, you know, the spaces may be needed for them to be able to share, you know, or their story.
So can't really go into much depth, but what I can say is when I'm as a teacher being human with them, like telling them, well, my students know, like we can joke whatever just to get them to feel like I'm not just a teacher. I'm a human. I'm a woman. I'm a mentor. Like we can talk and laugh and joke. And when it comes time to do work, we do our work. But it gives them that space of, oh, like Miss Jervis is human. Like she goes through things and other things like that. We do circles, restorative justice circles at our school too, which also allows our kids to be like, yeah, we're human through it too. We've all been through so many crazy things within the past few year within itself, and the kids are open to that. I've actually read a book Therapy for Black Girls, and that kind of gave me some help and perspective to know what my girls will be going through as Black and brown girls. So that as well. I think I've gotten to a point where like they really like me and they're willing to tell me a lot of things about themselves, like 7th grade, they got so much going on. I didn't even really realize. Like I forgot. But it's nice to know that when I'm open with them and when I'm honest with them about certain things, or just, you know, give them advice about, you know, minor things, just show them I'm human, kind of helps them to be like, oh, like I can talk to her, I can tell her things and such. So I would say that barrier helps. Removing that barrier helps. Excuse me.
So it kind of sounds like, I guess based on what I'm hearing, that especially from Cicely and even from Felicia, just this idea, and I think Landy hit on it too, like having a close circle that you can go to. And one of the things that makes me think of is this idea that as Black women, I don't know how much we talk to each other about.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Miss Landy said, you know, have a circle, find your two people. I don't have people. Like the two closest people to me in my life, three close people in my life. Of the three, only one is a woman. And she happens to be related to me. So it's not even like I can be like, oh, I have someone my age to talk to about whatever the issue is. So I was going to make, and to an extent, I've come to peace with that. Hey, if I get, best buddy bosom friends down the line, cool. But to make the pitch for the internet and social media and groups, a lot of my friends are not people I've ever met in real life. Yeah. They're up in West Bubble. But in a lot of ways, I feel closer to them or more more willing to talk to them about like serious things in my life than I am about people I necessarily know in real life. And the concept of things. One thing that comes to mind right now is like PCOS. Which is a bigger problem with women than I think a lot of people know. And a lot of people seem like they go through the symptoms, whatever it is, and think it's just they themselves. And then, you might find people like, oh, it's not just me. There are other people. So it definitely helps to have a group, even if it's not someone that you're sharing your intimate details with, just to know you're not alone, to know that, there's other people going through it. And, you can read other people's experiences. And from that, you might foster I found my two special people that I can talk to. But even if you're not at that space yet where you're comfortable even looking for those two people or even looking for therapy, just venturing out into the World Wide Web and discovering that you're not the only one of your kind. There are other people that are probably experiencing this thing. That look, there's a group for everybody out there. When I mean everybody, I mean everybody. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If there's a group, look, the amount of weird, strange groups that exist on the internet, I'm telling you, there's a group for everyone. You can find somebody somewhere that is going through your thing that you can go, okay, it's not just me. This is not weird. It's not my fault. To commiserate with, this group of people or whatever the case is.
And I think the goal is not to have the circle. The goal is to have a space to share. Right. So whatever that looks like, as long as you have a safe space to share, it could look like whatever. And I think you just proved that point in what you said, Vondell, because absolutely people can get to that need and get that need fulfilled online on social media on people they've never met before, but they're able to share in a safe space. And so I completely agree with that.
I agree.
I'm sorry. I saw Cicely unmute. Well, maybe that's not you unmuting. Okay. Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I think that it's about, being able to have a safe space. Because before we can, and Felicia, I like what you said about like starting with therapy and how like if we're talking about being empowered, part of that means kind of knowing who you are first. And that might mean that you sit in somebody's chair and talk about like unload, unpack everything and talk about like these are my experiences. This is what I've been through. Because if you aren't able to sit down and because I feel like a lot of times, especially as Black women, we don't process. Like we don't have time. We don't take the time to actually process the things that we've been through. And so I think that's probably why it's so difficult for us sometimes to even be vocal about certain things. I feel like we take on a lot. We deal with a lot as it comes, but we don't sit and say, okay, wow, that really happened to me. I really went through that, and then process it. Landy, I saw you with your.
I was just when you said that, Landy, I was sitting here wondering if we don't take the time to process or share or whatever, because sometimes we feel like after sharing, whatever the repercussions of that sharing would be, we're not protected in that space. There's been a lot of conversation recently about the protection of Black women. And it's the lack of protection of Black women. And it's not just a physical thing, but it's respecting and regarding your thoughts. And seeing you for your thought. And so I am protecting and respecting that. I think that sometimes we lay within our own minds and we don't even share with each other because we're so used to being left out there.
Ooh.
We're so used to it. I had an experience this week at my office. So some of you may not know, but I'm a female in STEM. So I'm a STEM advocate, right? Mm-hmm. I do STEM for K through 12, huge for me. So on my job, I've been doing it for about 20 plus years now. I've been in STEM for 20 years. On my job, I work with scientists and all these big brain people, is what I call them, right? And so this week I got into a conversation with a scientist who was, really trying hard, I could tell, to not be condescending in the conversation, but still was not grasping what I was saying to him, right? Yeah. And so it was in a moment where there were other minority individuals in the room, and I felt like the point that I was making, which was essentially science isn't the only part of STEM.
Right.
There is technology, engineering, and mathematics. Mm-hmm. So we're not going to elevate just science when we have other areas that are important, that are just as important, that support the mission of our agency. And because he was essentially excluding everyone else. And the people around the table who look like me, who are used to being excluded, I was like, I need somebody to say something, please, because I can't be the only person here advocating for STEM inclusion and just including all the people. And so I felt in that moment that the people around the table who got what I was saying but sat silently, but then chose to go in my inbox and say, I agree.
Y'all, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Y'all some cowards. Stay up off the inbox. I want to talk to none of y'all. But for me, that's a moment where someone would choose to stay silent and not advocate for them, not share, because they know that they won't have the protection or the backing of the people around them.
Wow. So I've actually been there. Like with an experience where you're in the room and you're the only one talking, and everybody says, "Good job, girl," behind closed doors. Listen. But when you open up for everybody, they were sitting there like silent.
Yes.
And I agree with you. I feel like we go through that as women a lot. I mean, I don't know about the rest of you guys, in this conversation, but I feel like as Black women, like you said a lot. I think that is kind of like why a lot of times we are so hesitant to speak up.
Yeah.
Because we don't feel like we're honored.
Yes.
Our yes are honored. And so and what you talked about just now kind of just made me think like, that means that in order to like if we're talking about how we can help each other to feel empowered, it means speaking up on behalf of each other.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, but I think also the confidence comes in within that, where we say knowing yourself. Yeah. So I know that some people, they may agree, but they may not be there yet with the confidence level to really even speak out on certain things because of fear of just, I can't lose my job, or, I don't want, people to think of me this way, or another group to think of me a different way. And I think that's a lot what I'm seeing now. People kind of want to speak up. They do it behind the scenes because they're kind of scared. I've actually heard people that said, like this past year with the Black Lives Movement, all this, like they were in, let's say, corporate or certain positions where their job is like, well, you can't say certain things on social media, and we're looking at what you say and what you partake in. And I'm like, wow, like imagine your place of employment has that much control to tell you where you can and cannot have freedom of speech. So I know there's some people that's willing to risk it all, and some people are just like, okay, I'll be 5 steps behind you, but I support you. Yeah. So I think I think that's part of the issue too.
I think it's funny that a lot of, like what you said, with like your place of work, or like censoring you outside of when you're at work, of just a lot of these big corporations were very quick to tag themselves onto, for example, Black Lives Matter. But like if you worked there and came in with a Black Lives Matter shirt, that was a problem. And I'm like, But on your Instagram page, you know, you posted a little black square. You know, you got the hashtag in your bio. I'm an actual black person.
Right.
And you're about to tell me that I can't, you're telling me to my face that my life, my thoughts, my whatever it is doesn't matter, but you want to, cool.
Yeah.
I see you.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think it's, to your point, Felicia, either you go in with the expectation or you say to yourself, you know what? Whether or not I'm standing by myself, I'm going to say it. And that's a level of confidence. That's like you said, you know yourself, you know what you bring to the table, you know exactly what you're saying. And so I don't need nobody to stand with me if you choose not to, but I'm noticing that you're not. You know, I'm not. And let me tell you, I took inventory around that virtual Zoom table this week. And I said, I see all of y'all. Okay. I see all of you.
Yeah. Go ahead. So I know that we're almost at time, but I wanted to ask this last question before we went to the connection. And that is, what do we tell? How do we help the younger generation? You know, like what are some things that we can do? And I actually want to start with Cicely for this question because I know that that's the population that you work with. Like, and you don't have to answer. If you don't have an answer, that's fine. But but my thought is, we all talk about the struggles that we had. We didn't really delve into, how as Black women sometimes there are self-esteem issues because we're Black and women, and all of that. But I'm sure we've all had our own struggles with all of it. And so knowing what we've been through and how we've gotten ourselves to where we are. Some of us are still working on it, to be honest. Some of us are still working through trauma and things like that. But like, what are some things that we can do for, and Landy too, because I know you have girls, you have daughters. Like, what are some things that we can do to empower the next generation so they don't feel like they need to be silent, so that they don't feel ashamed of their stories, and so that they feel like they can sit in a board at a table with a bunch of professionals and be like, and speak up for themselves.
Sure, yeah. For me in my class, I do I think they're tired of me by now, but I do a Black History Spotlight and Women's History Spotlight. So every day they get to see another Black woman and see what they have done so far in life, or either whatever's popular at the time. I think there was one woman who was doing ASL, showed that to the kids, kind of just showed them that you can change the world right now. I mean, I'm lucky that I teach history because I get to do that aspect. This is what happened in the past, but here's what you can do now to kind of encourage them to use their voices and make them active citizens, not just in later in life, but right within this moment. It's a challenge to do that as well. So definitely that as well. I do have a podcast. My kids are kind of creepy, so they found it.
That's the name of your podcast, so we can all.
Oh, it's the Melanin Tea Club, and we talk about everything. And the kids have found that. They're little creeps, but it just shows that they're open to listen to older people as well, and to talk about the issues. Sometimes I'll be sitting in class and I'll do a current events event, and I'll be like, so I don't want to talk. Y'all hear my voice all the time. You talk. And I'd just be, wow. When you give them that space to talk, they take so much in. I mean, we all know that children's brains are like sponges, and they have a lot to say, and they are very woke, and they are very hip to everything, and they know what's going on. They know what from right from wrong, and they'll tell you about themselves. And if they could, they'll tell whoever it was they were talking about themselves as well. And I think that for me, giving them that space to go, I'm going to be quiet. You talk. Y'all tell me. Teach me something. I teach you all the time. Y'all teach me. And giving them that space as young women and men at 12, 13, 14, 10, 11 allows them to blossom and grow and try to feel that, my classroom Miss Jervis' classroom is a safe space. Whether in hybrid or on Zoom, Miss Jervis' class is a safe space. So I can talk about anything.
Wow.
And they know that. So me doing that for them allows them to understand that they have a safe space, despite all the crazy things going on in the world. They have a voice and that they're able to use it right now. They don't have to wait.
I love that. So it's basically giving them a platform.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with me and my daughters, like I said, I have 3 teenage girls, and my experience in knowing and being confident in who I am really didn't come until much later in life, you know? And I always stress to them that you can't look at another person's chapter 47 to your chapter 2. You know, everybody has their own journey. And it's a matter of learning from the various aspects of where you are in your journey. And so for like the past month has been really, our family worships have been centered around, you know, the fact that God created them in his image, not just male, not just what a patriarchal system has said that it's man and then women just happen to show up to kind of help with, you know, no, that he was very intentional in male and female, you know, and so really driving home that point that they too matter, and their opinion and how they were created and what he gave them is so important. So it helps now dispel the what they may approach, what they may see in life, what they may even see in church, that from, you know, from the pulpit that women should not be doing certain things. It dispels a lot of that, and it helps them build their confidence off of the word of God. You know, and then taking them on over to now Psalm 139 that says that they're fearfully and wonderfully made. You know, my STEM club's motto is, you know, that we're genetically coded to be awesome, right? And we're genetically coded to be awesome because God has created us genetically awesome off of his image. And so really foundationally, that's where I come from with my girls, because everything that they hit really is going to bounce against that. When people try to tell them who they are, when people try to define them and say, this is what Black girls do, bending over on TikTok, doing all this foolishness, that this is what Black girls do, they can say, no, I'm created above that activity. That is not who I am. And so just kind of, you know, teaching that in terms of their identity from now, even from when they were younger, so that when they hit what society tries to give them, that they can think for themselves on it. You know, I didn't hit that until much later in life. And I tell them, I said, you take your time and get there, but just understand that you were created for a specific purpose. That purpose goes beyond what the thing is you may be seeing right here in front of you. And so women's empowerment literally coming from Genesis 2, that you too were created in his image. And so empower yourself off of that knowledge and that from jump, and then everything else, you know, you apply that against everything else.
I just wanted to add on with what Landy said. I do that as well in the classroom. I can't do as much.
Right.
I teach at public school. But just affirmations. Oh, I'm beautiful. I'm smart. I'm talented. I'm gifted. Just having those kids say those things over and over again, and even sharing that with their peers and challenging them to do that creates this safe space, and as well, and let them know that they can tell me all they want, but I'm a baddie. I'm cute, and that's on period. Like I tell them all the time, I'm like, you look cute today. You look cute today. Okay, I see you. You know, it could be like them wearing a bonnet. Your bonnet's cute. But you can just see from the screen or in person, like, oh, my teacher realized despite how I feel today, she thinks I'm still beautiful. She thinks I'm still handsome. That gives them just that confidence that they need as well.
Yeah. Very important. Very important.
I love that. Alicia, you want to say something?
Well, yeah. So I work with the male population, and I think even at an older age group, because a lot of my men are 18 to 30, they have daughters. And I think as a community on a whole, the interaction between just men and women, sometimes it's men's empowerment or women's empowerment, but then we don't hear from each other. And I realize some of the things that we struggle with as female and as male sometimes are the same thing. So a lot of my men struggle with, you know, how do I as a father, help, to show my daughter a certain way. Maybe my child's mother is not, doing things in a manner expected, or maybe I'm building myself up. So again, it kind of comes back to the same thing, the self advocacy. We just did a lesson on that, and affirmations, because I told them also, when for my population they have kids, I said they're looking at what you do first, not what you say. So we really try to take them at a level, and again, we work with the males, and then we try to incorporate their spouses or their child's mothers, family, bring it back to family affirmations. What do you want for your family? What do you want for your kids? Because you'll be surprised that, people go through like elementary all the way to adulthood, and they might have never heard something positive in their own households. They might be over 18 and like, well, my mom never said anything positive to me. And that's not everyone's case, but that is some people's situation. So kind of just bring it back to that mindset of the self-advocacy in a healthy way, not in a combative or argumentative way for everything, and also that affirmation. So I let them know it's okay to stand up for yourself. It's okay to, ask an employer, can I have this day off? I have something to do. And, just kind of those little steps that, as you said, people don't have the confidence yet. And I noticed also working with young men, when they kind of change, it kind of also shows a pattern of the women around them, whether it's their mother or their sister. Because also what I noticed is, for a lot of young men, that support comes from women in their life. And also if the women in their life are not, certain, it kind of trickles. So it's like everything's like a domino effect, I noticed. But it still comes back to, for me, self-advocacy and the affirmations, the positive affirmations, even within that college classroom setting.
So it looks like in the comments, I see that somebody is saying that in her home, Samoya is saying in her home, they have talks separately and together, wellness check-ins, so that they know that they're safe. They are a safe space, and different things to make sure that they come up with the self-esteem and confidence that she didn't have. And that's her way of approaching. That's Samoya's way of approaching her influence with her daughters and the younger generation. I saw, and somebody asked me what women's empowerment is, what it means. I feel like it means different things to different people.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think that the whole idea is we want to raise our women, our young girls, to know that they can do anything, they can be anything. And we're created, like Landy said, with how did you describe the DNA or genetically?
I said we are genetically coded to be awesome.
Right, we're genetically coded to be awesome, which means that we don't, even when we're afraid, we can do it afraid. Even when the opportunity doesn't seem like it's there, we're able to walk through that door, or create a door for ourselves, or create a table for ourselves. But it means that we are not, we don't allow ourselves, or we have the tools. I'll say we have the tools to operate in situations where we have to be resilient, where people are not necessarily giving us the respect that we deserve. We're able to internally understand that we deserve what we deserve, and we're able to operate in that. And I got to give Cicely a shout out real quick, because Cicely actually graduated, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Cicely was a senior when the pandemic hit.
Yeah, that was my last.
Okay.
Yeah.
She was in college when the pandemic hit, going to school for education, or she's doing education right now. But the reason why I have to give her a shout out is because, like, I'm sure that was a lot for her. And and even like graduating in the middle of a pandemic, so not even really having a graduation like other people had the opportunity to, but then looking for a job in the middle of a pandemic, fresh out of undergrad. And, I feel like examples like this, like she can use that as a means to teach her students, like, look, I was in a freaking, we were in a freaking pandemic when I graduated. I could have just been like, you know what, screw this. The earth is ghetto.
A lot.
The aliens don't talk to us.
And right, she could have done all of that, but I think part of the idea of empowerment is saying, you know what, my situation sucks right now, but just knowing, like, regardless of what life is for me, and it doesn't mean that you don't process it, and it doesn't mean that you don't have the feelings around it, but saying, in spite of all of that, I'm going to keep it moving because I'm awesome, and regardless of what circumstance I'm in right now, I have the potential to do so much more. Yes. So I think that is what empowerment, means.
Yes.
Thanks, Susan.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's great. That's great. Yeah.
Well, okay. So I have a mildly different, as a side effect of my upbringing, I have a mildly different view on, I guess, women empowerment, that kind of stuff, in that I think it's awesome and it's definitely necessary. But I think that part of something that we could do for the next generation is, before we even teach them necessarily the basis of women empowerment, I'm woman, hear me roar, teach them that, like, you're a human being and you have these things that you can do just by virtue of that. So I, not necessarily to throw out the whole gender, woman thing, but even before we get there, that you are a human and you can do certain things, and you are not limited by being a woman or whatever it is. My favorite story to tell is that for some strange reason, my dad wanted a girl. No clue why, because it never seemed to make a difference to him. I don't think he even knows I'm not a boy. He would bring me to construction sites and be like, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And it never, I don't think he even knows that he has a daughter most days. He didn't care. So I don't necessarily, like, it never occurred to me that I wouldn't be able to do something just because I'm a girl, or society looks at me and goes, oh, woman. So just teaching young girls that, society's going to look at you and be like, oh, you can't do this. But sure, you can. And this box that people give you ain't got nothing to do with you. That's their own personal problem. You can hand that back to them and say, no, thank you. I'm going to do this thing because this is what I want to do. And I am not limited by anything but myself and, maybe physical limitations or whatever the case may be. And I think I definitely consider myself kind of blessed in that aspect of just, it's never occurred to me that, like, yeah, you're a woman, you can't do this. Why not?
Right.
Why is that the one thing that's going to hold me back? Of all the things that you're going to come up with, why is that the thing? So yeah, just even as much as women empowerment is awesome, just teaching, young girls that you're a human and you get to do these things. If you want to do it, you can do it. That's, you are only limited by a certain amount of things, and gender does not have to be one of them.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's good. I actually want to add something too that I thought about, opposed to sharing stories, but rather sharing resources and information. To me, that's empowerment, because sometimes I do like to watch, like, or join. That last year was on Zoom, these different workshops and stuff like that. And people be like, well, I did this, I made $1 million overnight, and this is a girl, you could do it too. Okay, but where's the information to help me how to do it? Like, am I supposed to now go and read? Like, it's, yes, I have to do my research and stuff, but I like to take a resource or informational approach, even if it's something I don't do. So that's like, I might know a student that's interested in STEM, and I could be like, oh, I met this great lady named Lindsay, maybe I could connect you with her, to get more information or just get that resource. So I'm really big on resources, because a lot of people do, especially in social media now, sell you sell you their story or sell you a dream, and then there's really no information behind it, and they call it empowerment.
Charge you an arm and 6 legs for access to the information.
Yeah. Right. So they say, oh, this women's empowerment event, and then I walk away and I'm like, I feel like I'm already empowered enough. I didn't need your event. You know what I mean? Like, to me, this engagement sometimes is more empowering than some of those platforms that we see that's promoting, you know, empowerment and sisterhood, where it's really more so of their personal gain. And then they're not giving us the resources of how we could get the stepping stones to, you know, take that next step. So I'm big on resources as well, like sharing resources and information for someone else's betterment, or another woman's betterment.
Yeah. I would also add to that, because I think that is absolutely important. I think since in sharing resources, I think because sometimes people are like, well, I don't know where to start. How can I be empowered when I really don't know anything much about it? I don't know, you know. I always tell people to take those temperament exams, you know, take the personality test, the actual scientific ones that tell you who you are and how you receive information, you know, whether or not you're extroverted, introverted, whether or not you're intuitive or, you know, thinking, or, you know, to learn more about you. And a part of learning yourself is not just through experiential, you know, data, but it's also through a lot of those tests, and they're free online, you know. So like because I'm an ENTJ, I call it the ENTJ test, right? But when you find those personality and temperament tests to take them, they're free online, and they really tell you a lot about yourself. You in terms of resources, where you can start and really start to build on in terms of who you are as a person. I think those types of things are important as well, just to shoot out some resources.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's good too.
Okay, so we already did the connection part. Usually we have that little piece, but we just did it. So not even gonna run that. But I want to thank all of you guys for coming and speaking to the peoples and participating in our F.L.O.W Presents. Much appreciated. And okay, bear with me as I try to run through our advertisements. So first we have yeah, look at that. We have Bible study every Friday at 7 p.m. Then we have what is it called? Sabbath school Saturday mornings at 10:30, Sabbath mornings. And we have F.L.O.W Presents, which is this, at 4:30 p.m. We also, if I'm not mistaken, have Sunday dinner at 7 p.m. on Sundays, where everyone and their mama is invited to come. We talk about all sorts of whatnot, pop culture, life, everything you can think of. If it's on your heart, bring it, and some food at Sunday dinner. You have to bring your own food. We don't supply that. It's through Zoom. We're limited. There's only so much we can do. So those are the things that, you know, we here at F.L.O.W are doing. We want to foster a community, a circle of genuine people, a safe space. Yes.
I was gonna say really quickly, don't forget to check out what is Melanin. What is your
Melanin Tea?
Oh, my podcast, Melanin Tea Club.
Yeah, I followed it.
We gotta support our sisters.
Yes.
Support.
And you can always follow me on Instagram
It
as
is
well.
on Spotify, which is
Can you put your information in the comments? Are you able to do that
on the YouTube or
on YouTube
somewhere?
There you are.
And we actually have a Sunday dinner tomorrow, I assume. Yeah, we have one tomorrow.
Yes, and Landy, what do you have a company? I feel like you have a company.
I do. DNA. It's DNA Awesome STEM Club. So I'm on Instagram, DNA STEM Club at DNA.
Okay, so you drop your link as well. We gotta support.
Support. Look. The whole point of this is to support all that good stuff and resources, and we want to bring people closer to God, but also each other, and, you know, build within a community. So all that good stuff. Oh, Cicely added to her thingy. That's really cool. So yes, thank you all for coming. And next week, I believe we're doing a part 2 for women's health specifically. So, you know, gentle people, be sure to tune in next week at 4:30 as always on Saturdays for F.L.O.W Presents. And until then, I bid y'all adieu. Bye.